on the phone stuff and the role play. So you could also record your calls. If you're on the phone, it's easy. If you're at different times and you say to the VA, listen to 10 calls I had with agents today, and then they start to listen to your calls, how you speak, the kind of queries that come up, the information that they ask for, why you're doing it that way. Role play is excellent. And then when your lifetime, go shadow my calls, and then you'll be like, I'm going to start shadowing your call. And there's no reason, just be confident, just say, hey, you know, I'm training up a virtual assistant, they're going to be transacting on my behalf, you'll be speaking to her. If there is any clarification, I'm going to jump in and clarify. And the person's going to be like, all right, fine, and you'll get on with it. So this is how I trained Yasmin in sales, because Yasmin's not really a normal VA. She's creative like me. She's got sales experience. She's actually an actress. Which is funny. We both enjoy interacting with people in a similar way. But I thought for a long time I couldn't outsource my sales calls, and I was getting up at 5 a.m. in the morning to speak to Europe from Mexico and blah, blah, blah. And it was exhausting. So I was like, I'll do 4 or 5 hours of calls and then I'll get on with the rest of my day. But calls are exhausting. They can be really high energy and intense. And so I was like, oh, it's a real energy drainer. And I had to say to myself, you need to practice what you preach, because I'll always challenge somebody and say, do you really think you're good, so good that no one else can do this? And I was like, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm speaking to other entrepreneurs. How can a Filipino VA step in and do this? And then I was like, right, I'm just gonna look for the person. And it took about 3 months. It took a bit longer. And then Yasmin popped up, and she was just very fiery, passionate. She got my business. She researched me as a person. She understood my values, my goals, even at interview. And she had sales experience. And I was just like, wow, okay. And even then, she started off by listening to, I'd been recording my calls in preparation. So she listened to hours and hours of me on the phone with various people, pitching our services, answering their questions, talking about VAs. And she felt like she was really knowledgeable. And then I brought her onto the calls with me and just let her do tiny bits, just let her introduce herself to start off with, and then a bit bigger. And I had her on calls with me probably every day for about 3 months, because the tricky thing with my sales calls is you can't stick to a script and not listen to the person. You've got a script, but you need to come off it as soon as the person takes you off it. And there's many reasons that might happen, but you've got to really listen. And that's what I was teaching her. I also taught her a little bit about personalities. I'm like, if this person's very alpha, you need to adapt your style to them. Because alpha people are like, I've got no time, let's do this, don't tell me stories, like, don't waste my time, be direct, let's go. I'm like, how do you handle that person? Because we get them. And then, whereas someone else is massively detail orientated, how do you handle that person? And they want spreadsheets on spreadsheets on spreadsheets. And it's just sort of, we talked a lot about these different things, and I had a few techniques that I taught her. And it got to a point where she took over more of my call. I did have to step in a few times because she just got lost, but she saw what I did when I stepped in, and I'd already set the expectation with the person that that's what I was doing. And I can say it. I'm like, look, I live and breathe what I do. I'm training a VA to replace myself. You're part of the process. Let's go. This is what we're doing today. And the person's like, oh, okay. You know, it's not a bad thing to show somebody who's calling you to talk about VAs. And then it got to a point where Yasmin was so good that I was like, I don't need to be in the room anymore. I'm actually getting bored. Like, well, there's no reason for me to be here. The stakes had dropped from, I'm so worried that she's going to make a mistake, to, this is no longer a useful activity for me. I've got every confidence in her. She's nailing it. And then she's not got the entrepreneurial experience that I've got, but she is a VA. Like, from the Philippines. She's got this whole other flavor she can bring into it when she's talking to people. And so it's really interesting when you go through that process, and it will vary from, I mean, I've heard it a lot from property investors. Oh, I'm a property investor. It's not going to take you very long to teach me your processes. If I was your VA, if I had interest, it wouldn't, probably in a day I'd be able to take loads of stuff off you. It wouldn't take that long, and then what I can give back out of that would be huge. So yeah, it's really something to sort of keep in mind with relation to the task. But some of these tasks are actually really simple when you break them down.